Hi, this is Cheryl. I'm so happy that you're joining me today. Trust that this safe and loving space is exactly where you're supposed to be to ignite your higher self and empower you at this very moment in time. There are no coincidences. Trust the nudges that speak to you. Hello, and welcome to my 5-part series on psychic abilities. Today is the second part, and we will be working and talking about clairaudience. So, as I started with my first episode, I'm going to manage it the same way. I'm going to talk about the backgrounds and what is the psychic abilities. Then I'm going to move to my mediumship and how I use this one specific psychic ability and validate with that. I'm also going to do a share today on meeting a spirit guide. So I'm going to share that with you. I always try to find shares that are different and interesting. So I think you'll really like that one. So to start on this psychic ability, clairaudience, first I always like to define what psychic means. And psychic means that you use senses that are not explained by human terms or the human senses of seeing, feeling, hearing, touching, and smelling. And we also have matching psychic senses to the human senses, and we call those clairs, Clairs. And that word clear, it's a Latin prefix, and it means clear. And again, it matches our psychic senses in most cases. You'll find one that I'll speak about later. It doesn't. So today is clairaudience, and clairaudience is clear hearing. It matches up the hearing of the human senses. And so that definition is you hear words or sounds or music in your own mind's voice. It's not from a natural source. And so what that feels like when you're using your psychic ability and where you're kind of tapping into that is you hear thoughts. And I know that's an interesting way. You very well may be hearing thoughts that you just didn't realize were thoughts. And when I say that, they just kind of shoot in. They're just words or thoughts or sounds that shoot in. And I always say, if they're shooting in, that's a lean in that you are in the spiritual realm, or that you're listening to your light, whether your light be your higher self or the universe. And I use that in a collective sense, because if you're thinking, then you're using your human brain, which is three-dimensional and is not part of what you want to tap into when you're looking to kind of hear what the lighted realm wants to speak with you and communicate with you on. And again, those thinking and sounds and voices, they have no natural source. Uh, for instance, you're in bed and and no one's home and you hear your name being called. And you know you heard your name being called, but you're like, no, I know it didn't come from a natural source. That is a good indicator that you are leaning into that ability of clairaudience and being open for that communication channel. So now we're going to move into our physical world, not only hearing those that example I gave you when you're sleeping, but you're able to retain information best through your auditory learning, best through your listening and hearing. Maybe you love music. You like to talk to yourself. You have a busy mind. 100% that's me. You hear chatter. Sometimes you hear ringing in your ears. Those are sometimes little indicators in our physicalness that we might be needing to tap into that psychic ability a little deeper, or that we have maybe that predisposition. I know I'm using a human word, but a predisposition to that being a higher clair to be kind of tapping into. Some jobs or careers that technically that clairaudient abilities generally kind of resonate with are musicians, singers, writers, public speakers in some way. And again, that that piece of hearing. So how does Cheryl here? How does my mediumship work with clairaudience? And again, I really try when I'm giving you this specificness, I really try to stay on this one psychic ability each time. But again, I blend all the time in my readings and in my personal life as well. They all blend in together. So I don't work very deeply. And in fact, I do that purposely in my readings in personal life, not to kind of filter out how I'm coming in, because if I'm doing that, I also am thinking, And if I'm thinking, then I may be allowing ego to kind of infiltrate, or and that is never a place I want to open up to when I'm looking for lighted guidance or lighted messages. So just trust what comes in. I always say, just be aware. Just kind of say, wow, okay, that was interesting. And I always use that word interesting. My friends will always tell you that, and clients, many clients, I say, they say, oh, Cheryl, this is so funny. This is so weird that it happened. And my spiritual flag always goes up, because 99% of the time, if you're using those words in context, not talking about a comedian and that type of thing, 99% of the time, it's of the lighted realm. So I always say, take and just insert the word interesting instead of your funny or weird, and see how that fits. See, sometimes it just stays there and it doesn't move anywhere, and sometimes it gives your lighted opportunity, or your psychic abilities, to kind of just say, maybe there's something more for me to kind of sit with or investigate or be open to. So I went on a little tangent on that, but I always, it is always so important. So use the word interesting. So my mediumship in working with clear hearing, I feel as though it's an equal dominant psychic sense for me. It ties in with my clairvoyance, my clear seeing, because for me it feels concrete. I know what I'm seeing, feeling, and hearing, and I want to tap into that deeper, because I know there's some place for me to go on that. So I also need to just remind you, because our heart knows all these answers. I really just am a validator of this information. But our spirits communicate telepathically, and telepathically means thought to thought. It's our spiritual language. There's no lip moving. It's very interesting when I hear people that I that want to talk about spirits and so forth, and I never see them talking. And I say, because we don't talk like we do on this earthly plane. We talk telepathically. And but in my mediumship, if I do see lips moving, or I hear lips moving, it's more, I have to be honest, if I see lips moving, that means I'm using my clairvoyancy. And again, very often they come in conjunction. I will say, is your loved one, did they like to do a lot of talking, or maybe some trash talking if I was feeling that in a different way? And they're like, oh my God, yes. So the lip moving is only to give evidence, or give characteristic support to what they were like on this earth's plane. But in the human, and excuse me, in the spiritual realm, there is no lips moving. We just talk telepathically. So we use words, and we use thoughts that come into the mind's eye. No rational thinking. And again, like I mentioned earlier, thinking is the human brain, and the brain is never a place where it's going to give you a lighted guidance. So it's you gain information outside of the physical world. And I think that that's a really important piece to kind of highlight in any of the psychic abilities. There's nothing explainable on the physical world, how this information came to you, or how these messages got sent. So let me give you an example. I'm going to use this psychic ability episode to talk about spirit guides just a little deeper. So spirit guides always want to be introduced. So as a medium, and in reading, sometimes people will come and say, I want to meet my spirit guide, or I already know my spirit guide. I want to hear more about what they have to say. But generally, they're coming in saying, do I have a spirit guide? What do they look like? What are they like? So using my clairaudience, and again, just being very specific with that one ability to just have you kind of see it in its full display, is I will hear the name. I won't necessarily see the name. I don't generally see names, but I hear names. So I hear the name and I say, okay, your spirit guide's name is whatever that is. It's a male or a female. And then they go on to talk about different parts of their life and path that will support where they are right now. And it's really interesting, because sometimes when they go in and they start talking about communicating with them in a deeper sense, and building that foundation, I do get other senses that come in. And again, like I mentioned, it's just like a lighted harmony together. And I don't really tease that out. I just deliver it. So when I'm talking about my mediumship and clairaudience, I would hear a name, and just to kind of move through that again. And so If I were to hear the name and I needed to, and I say, I think I want to give you an example of spirit guide and just kind of blending clairvoyancy with it. I don't see the name generally, I hear the name, but I might see when I'm looking maybe to validate, or maybe before the name comes, I might see a person in my life being shown to me. So it's if get shown a person that I know in my physical world, I know that there's a part that they're trying to communicate to me. So I might see a person that I know in this world named Charlie, and I will say, "Your spirit guide is named Charlie," because I'm seeing that picture. And then I would go to validate, and that moves me to talking about validation using clear hearing. So, like I mentioned, and I will keep mentioning, as I am a constant validator of messages, both personally and professionally. So, how would I use clear hearing? I have to remind you that if it feels like it's right, and that ego can't be any part of your validation, or it could be distorted. So you have to make sure that that earth's chatter and all that earth's noise is ceased. However, best you can work on that, and then you ask for your messages. So professionally, when I'm validating using clearing hearing, I would truly hear the word yes. Is his spirit is John's spirit guide's name Charlie? Yes. And that is how I would validate using my clear hearing. Professionally, I mean, excuse me, personally, I want to just say that you can ask anything out of light and love anytime you want. I talk about it professionally, but personally as well. So here's a question I might ask. I don't know about you, but I get tired of making so many decisions in my physical life. And sometimes I say, okay, okay, help me out. Do I go grocery shopping today or tomorrow morning? Like, what is in my highest best good? What day do I go? And I might, and I will get validated if I ask in light and love, and I clear the earth's shadow. I will get my answers. And so I would hear tomorrow. And as you can see, it's not a yes or no. It truly is when you're clear hearing, it doesn't have to be yes or no. Those are just really kind of my fast answers. It can be words and or choices, depending on how you serve that up to the universe in questions. So I might hear the word tomorrow, and I would say, okay, it feels light to me. Tomorrow it is. I'm not going tonight. So again, you can validate anytime you want. And I always say there's no question that's off limits as long as it's in the right light, and it's not bred from greed. And I always say, don't ask for the winning lottery numbers because they don't come through. But again, if it's in light and love, and as mundane as going grocery shopping, in light and love and my highest best good, do I go grocery shopping tonight or tomorrow morning? Tomorrow. Okay, that's when I'm going. And don't look back. No, if that felt light and right at your validation, then there you can further validate. You can ask different questions. In light and love and my highest best good, I should go food shopping tonight or today? No. Okay. And so you can validate using that you heard the right answer. So I do that quite often. I call it like circle validating, and just to make sure that I'm hearing the right answer. But once it feels light and right, I don't look back, and I don't insert the word but, because that is an open invitation to ego. So let me move to my share now of meeting a spirit guide. So a woman came in for a reading asking about a family member who was experienced a bump, and those aspects of the reading came through. And during the read, her spirit guide came in. I don't remember the psychic channel that came in, so I'm just gonna just kind of keep moving with this, because it's really kind of an interesting and beautiful way that she was hearing. And she said that, oh my goodness, yes, I would love to meet my spirit guide. And so I heard very clearly that her spirit guide was named, and I'm going to use a pretend name, Curtis. And so, just as I mentioned, that's how my mediumship works. And so he came through as spirit guides will, with some validating information about her life and her path in those aspects, and really just the introduction. And once, because we all have spirit guides, And once we have that introduction, then we have a relationship with the spirit that is 100%. I know I'm using human words, 100% with us our entire lifetimes. So, and know what we want to accomplish and help us in any way they can. So when that introduction comes, the spirit guide is just so excited. And I really haven't met a spirit guide that has not wanted an introduction to their person on this earth's plane. So back to this reading. So I said, yes, his name is Curtis. And she said, okay, Cheryl, are you ready for this? And I said, oh, yes, I am. And she says, I was walking just the other day in my neighborhood. And she says, and I walk by a street that I've walked by so many times. And she says, and I never noticed the street name. And I said, okay. And she said, the street name was Curtis. It was Curtis Street. And I remember saying to myself that time, that is so unusual that I have walked the street so many times and I have never noticed that this street is Curtis Street. And we both kind of giggled because she was very much an open heart and awakened to spirit. And we both laughed and I go, of course it was. Because Curtis was there and Curtis knew that she would be coming in for this reading, because as hard as it is for me to understand in my concrete earth mind, I do trust that we are living in a present, past, and a future dimension. And Curtis, her spirit guide, knew that he would be coming through in this reading, and to just further validate for her that this is a real phenomenon. Like, I do exist. You didn't see that. And on accident, and I always say, our hearts, our open hearts, our pure open hearts to the light know all these answers. And all you have to do is just ask, does that feel light to me? Because again, ego can't replicate that. It can't help you to feel that. So I have found in my mediumship equal psychic strength in my clairvoyance, which is a clear seeing, in today's episode on clairaudience, which is clear hearing, and very often use them together as I kind of demonstrated to channel messages. When conducting a reading, Spirit works hard communicating their messages of light and love into my channels. Working to ensure their messages are heard with clarity, I constantly validate. When validating using clear hearing, the result would be hearing the word yes or no, depending on how I stated it, or the answer to my question or phrase. Another aspect that is important to keep in mind when working with any clairs and validating is to clear the earth's chatter and open your heart for your answers. For an open heart holds your truths and will always feel light. Have a beautiful day filled with light and love. Thank you so much for allowing me to accompany you on your journey. We have so much to learn together. If you have a topic you feel would be beneficial to spiritual growth, feel free to DM me at Cheryl Bradley Medium or email me at hello@cherylbradley.com. Listening to today's episode, I hope you gained an abundance of light to carry you until the next time we are together. Keep the title of this podcast circling with you today and every day. If it's light, it's right. Have a beautiful day.